This may be my most anticipated video to make. Here I have my 2025 reading journal, and as you can see, she is very chunky and very well loved. But it's time to bring in my new 2026 reading journal, and oh boy am I so excited to set this one up. It looks so magical and fits the reading journal vibes. So, funny story with this, I actually started setting this journal up back in October. All I had left to do was to color everything in. That did not happen until about February. Why? I don't know. As we open up the journal, we are greeted with the little decorative cover page, and as we flip over, we have the moon faces on the left and then the moon faces of 2026 on the right. And then flipping over is a couple moon manifestation pages, which I debated on either covering up or leaving, which I ended up leaving them. And now we have my personal reading journal cover page that I hand drew myself. This design took a very long time to color in. Drawing it all out wasn't too bad, but the coloring is what took the longest. It took me about 2 hours to color everything in, which I don't know if that's super long or not that long, but this design was fully inspired by the front cover of the journal. I figured it only would make sense to do the cover page to match the cover of the journal. I think why I stalled for so long to color this in is because I was afraid of it not turning out the way I wanted it to turn out. I had to plan very carefully which colors I used in this, since a lot of purple markers don't typically turn out well. At least for me, they don't really turn out well, or they're too similar in colors despite them having two totally different numbers to them when it comes to the Tombow brush pens. Or the purples are too vibrant, like the color of magenta or Barney. I'm not looking for purple tones like that. I wish there were more tones of purple that were more in the pastel realm, or maybe I'm not looking in the right place. I've mostly stuck to Tombow dual brush pens for the past 2 or 3 years now, thinking they're more quote-unquote professional art pens or markers, but really I guess just about anybody uses whatever markers they can get their hands on. It's just these ones are like the preferred markers when it comes to doing journaling. And I can't lie, these markers really are pretty nice. Okay, well, one long process later, we finally have our cover page, and it turned out absolutely stunning. I'm so happy with how this came out. It matched the cover perfectly. And now we're moving on to my current TBR, and here I have this extra little slip of paper that's supposed to flip out like this, since I do own a lot of unread books on my shelves, and I don't think all the books that I own that are unread would fit on just one spread. I'm going to need a tip-in. And miraculously, somehow they all managed to fit on this page, thanks to the tip-in. I even still had some room left over for a couple more books to list down, but those spots will be left empty. And say hello to Smiley, our black cat, who will be constantly jumping up onto the desk and running all over the place, laying on my desk and on the journal, and actively trying to mess up my work. Anyways, my current TBR is literally all the books that I own in a physical copy that I have not read. That is what my current physical TBR is. I'm not counting anything that I have not purchased and not read, since that's kind of more of like a wish list of things that I want to read eventually, but I do not actually own that book prior to 2026. And whatever I do purchase that is new and unread in 2026 will be getting its own separate spread. On the topic of spreads, the one that I am currently working on is heavily inspired by the matching sticker set that I got for this journal. There were these 3 stained glass window stickers that I really liked, but I unfortunately didn't find a way to incorporate them into the initial setup of the journal. But I did love them so much as to copy their design as a stained glass window for my bookshelves. And here she is, all complete. I love how this came out. I couldn't be bothered to rewrite the first part of the word onto the other side of the page, so you'll just get the word ent when you flip open that little tip in, but the flip out works so well and gives me so much room. And now we move on to my second stained glass window design with bookshelves. This one is for my 30 book reading goal and all the books that I read in 2026. In doing that, I kind of confused myself a little bit on what I meant to do with my 30 book goal. Originally, in my previous reading journal, I had little square boxes that I would just color in after I completed a book. This year, I wanted to color in little books to symbolize that I finished a book. So in the moment, it made sense to put my reading goal and however many total books I read for the year on one page. But then it got me a little lost and thought, why do I have two of the same thing? But it's okay, it turned out fine in the end. On my books read side, I usually just write down the name of the book and then I color in whatever month I read that book in, and they're kind of all scattered around throughout on the shelf. While my reading goal, I am just coloring in the spine of the book in order, and I'm not scattering them around on the bookshelves, and I'm also not writing down the name of the book either. This is all finished and it turned out pretty good. Still loving the stained glass window design. And now moving on to my new editions bookshelf spread. Now on here I have 3 main bookshelves to document all the new books that I add to my library. So anything that is new that I bought from the store or online to put on my bookshelves. I titled it New Ads since I was starting to get tired of writing in this certain font, so I just shortened the word additions to ads just to make it easier on myself and still keep the writing consistent. For the time being, the shelves will remain empty and I'll just fill them in as I acquire new books. And now for the scariest spread of them all, my books bought page. I'd like to keep track of when I buy books, how much it costed me, and what I bought, as well as checking a box to see when I read that book. By the end of the year, I'm too scared to add up the total of how much I spent on books for that year, so we'll just glance over it to see how many books I bought in the entire year. Okay, so part 1 of this is complete, but there is more to my books bought page. I'm afraid I will run out of room with just these 2 pages. Also, my fingers are getting heavily stained from all of this black marker. So on the other side, I have it continuing on the left side, and then on the right side is my pre-orders page, which is new. I had so many pre-orders that I placed back in 2025 that I was starting to lose track of what I had purchased from where and when I should be expecting them. So hence why I now have my pre-order section. I don't typically pre-order books a ton, but usually if I do pre-order something, it's going to be from either LitJoy Crate or Fairy Loot when they have their early access sales. I have become such a Fairy Loot addict since getting onto their YA book box subscription. I so wish they had a book box combo for YA and romantasy. That would be absolutely amazing. So Fairy Loot, if you're listening, please let there be a book box combo for the YA and romantasy books. And now part 2 of this is complete, and I absolutely love how the lighter tan section looks like a fantasy-esque scroll type paper to match the vibes of the journal. And now we move on to potentially my favorite spread of this setup. I love creating a beginning of year reading idea. So you know how people do, here are the number of books I want to read for this year. So for this year, it's 26 books I want to read in 2026. I did this last year and I had so much fun with it, and I read quite a good chunk of those books that I originally picked out. Unfortunately, I didn't read all of them, but my mood changes throughout the year, so it's going to be different books than I initially thought I would read. And then I have my year in pixels to keep track of which days I read, which days I didn't read, and how much. It's truly some fun data to look back on once it is all complete. Before I talk about what I'm working on currently, you're about to witness some unfortunate events. I accidentally cut off one of the bookmark ribbons in the journal. Absolute devastation. What am I supposed to do with this now? Do I glue it back on? Do I leave it? Like, what do I do? I was trying so hard not to catch one of the ribbons in the scissors, but I still somehow managed to chop off one of the bookmark ribbons. So upsetting. Now, I know I have the year in pixels already used to collect data on, but sometimes I want to know exactly how many pages I'm reading each day instead of having a rough estimate on how much I read that day. So here I'm creating my exact page numbers that I read every day for the entire year. I did this last year and I want to bring it back again because I just love having the exact number of pages that I read for each day throughout the entire year. The year in pixels is more for aesthetic purposes. A few losses later and we have our pages read spread complete. A lot more decorated than I initially thought I would have room for. And now I'm moving on to my top 10 books for 2026. Now, obviously this won't get filled out until the end of the year, but I've tried this matrix system back in 2025. So instead of using a book bracket, this matrix system is supposed to help rank your books a lot more accurately than a book bracket. I got this idea from Jacaranda. She's a little bit more of a popular bullet journaler, so go ahead and check out her channel since she has a lot of good inspiration for a lot of things. And now we're finished with my top 10 books spread and moving on to the new releases spread. Now this is exactly what it sounds like. It's a place to keep track of all the new releases that happen in 2026. I kind of debated on whether I added this or not since I didn't use it a ton in 2025, but I thought, well, there are a lot of books releasing this year that I do want to keep track of, so I'll add it anyways. So far, I haven't used a single page of this. We'll see if that changes. Okay, so the first part of the new releases spread spread is finished, and now we can move on to the second part of this, which is pretty much the same thing as this continued on to the second page, so not much commentary for that. Somebody explain how I'm supposed to work in these conditions. Miss Girl is laying all over my journal. How am I supposed to work? Made herself real comfy on that journal. Ugh, but she's so cute. And there we go. We have this all complete. Now you might notice something a little bit different if you're paying attention. We have a new nail check. Look how cute and gorgeous they look. Ugh, I love me a good pair of nails. It makes videos look 100 times better than just my stubby little nails. Anyways, we are nearing the end. This is going to be the last spread that I set up for this beginning of year reading journal setup. Last year I wanted to partake in the Goober reads, but since I was setting up my journal so late last year, I kind of forgot about it and didn't add it in. And so this year I actually wanted to participate, and this year's theme is baked goods. This is also something that Jashi Corinne and her friends are hosting, and something that they host every year. So I just wanted to have a little fun and see how many of my books end up matching the prompts. I'm also still debating whether I put the little books on the bookshelf or the pastries on the bookshelf, or maybe I put both. And there we go. She is all complete and looks absolutely stunning. Now, technically, I do still have one more page left, and that is my Warrior Cats reading order. Now, I'm going to be setting this up at a later date and possibly off camera, since I have to find all of the books in chronological order according to how the beginning of the clans start versus release date order. But now we're gonna go ahead and flip on back to the very beginning and take a look at everything all at once. This setup came out so much better than I ever imagined. I was so worried about screwing something up and then me not liking it later on, but I managed to stay far away from that reality, and the results are everything. I'm even more excited to finally start using these spreads and filling things out, because it's so satisfying to see how many books you've read, how many books you've read off of your TBR so far, how many books in your 26 and 2026 you've read, just all of the fun stuff, even the year in pixels. I love getting to fill out everything. As we near the end of our flip through and the video as a whole, I hope you guys enjoyed this setup as much as I did and got lots and lots of inspiration for your own reading journal or just bullet journal in general. If you guys liked this, feel free to stick around for whatever other untimely things I may upload in the near future, such as my March bullet journal setup. That is extremely late and it's about to be April, but it's okay because we're still gonna release her because she still looks absolutely gorgeous and deserves the spotlight. And also feel free to poke around my other previous videos if you want more content. Until then, I'll see you guys in whatever untimely thing I upload next.